Well, the battle between the CBI chief and his number 2, Rakesh Asthana, reached the Delhi High Court today with the Special Director and his arrested team member Devinder Kumar challenging the FIR filed by the agency against them in a bribery case. The High Court has ordered status quo till the next hearing on Monday, which means that Mr. Asthana cannot be arrested till then. It has another court, however, has sent Mr. Kumar, Devinder Kumar, Mr. Asthana's aide, to police custody for the next 7 days. But it also turns out, interestingly, that the case against Mr. Asthana has been filed on a clause of the anti-corruption law that lapsed in July. The CBI has said now it's up to the court to decide what happens next. Mr. Asthana's boss, Alok Verma, meanwhile, has written to the government seeking clearance for his suspension. This is, of course, an unprecedented war within the country's top investigation agency. Special Director Asthana is known to be close to the Prime Minister. He held top posts in Gujarat when Mr. Modi was the Chief Minister at that time. And the government has made no secret of the fact that it is not happy with the CBI Director, especially after he met political leaders like Arun Shourie and Yashwant Sinha, who had come to him with a complaint on the Rafale jet deal only some weeks earlier. Well, joining us on NDTV this evening now is former Union Minister Arun Shourie. Mr. Shourie, thank you for speaking to us today. What is your take on this unprecedented CBI versus CBI battle that we are seeing?
Actually, Nidhi, contrary to what you said, I feel it is a very good thing. And every viewer and every reader should follow every twist and turn of this battle. Because you see, whenever anything happens, Kathua rape takes place, some riot takes place, people say the murder takes place. Oh, this must be inquired into by the CBI. Well, here we are getting a glimpse of what the real condition is of the CBI and what a clique of officers led by Asthana are doing about very important cases. So they were dealing with businessmen, they were dealing with corruption, and maybe that's how other things get done also. So that's the first point. The second point is to remember what is the root cause of all this. Precisely what you said. It is the determination of the Prime Minister and his clique to force an officer of their choice into the CBI. And it was not just an ordinary thing. I think many of us would not remember that they delayed the appointment of a regular director and brought in Asthana and made him the acting director. And they would have continued him till he then automatically became the director. And this, in spite of the fact that they knew that he was under investigation for all sorts of things that he had done by the CBI itself. But the even more, distressing fact is that all these facts were brought to the notice of the Supreme Court by my friend Prashant Bhushan. They were brought to the attention of the CVC, and these people resolutely shut their eyes to the facts. And this is the result.
But
so
Mr.
I
Shourie,
certainly feel that it is very good.
Sorry,
yes.
Please complete your thought. Yes, go ahead. It's very. Oh, you feel it's very good that this has all come out into the open.
It is very good that these into the open, and that these visible symbols of things that are wrong, these Asthana and all, should be kept there, slowly twisting in the wind, as Haldeman said about others, so that people get to know what the condition of the CBI is.
But Mr. Shourie, ever since this controversy,
CBI, which was being
ever since this controversy has festered,
CBI
which has been for some months now, and particularly in the last few days, there are some, including retired bureaucrats, people who have served in the CBI as well, who actually believe that both officers should have to step aside in order for there to be a fair inquiry into what's going on, because Rakesh Asthana has his own counter complaint against the CBI Director. Now, it's not that easy to remove the sitting CBI Director. It is, however, possible for the government to move Mr. Asthana out. What do you feel about that? Do you believe both men need to be moved out? And who will investigate them?
No, on the contrary, I don't believe in being neutral between the arsonist and the firefighter, as many people suddenly become. Here is a person who is brought in forcibly into the CBI, just as you implied earlier, this is happening in other investigative agencies. You just see the number of persons now maybe in their 50s or 60% who have resigned in their statements in the Sohrabuddin murder case. That maybe 50 odd people have died crucial people have died in mysterious circumstances in the Vyapam case. So, and what is the National Investigative Agency done in the Mecca mosque blast case? So it is a pattern. It's not just Asthana. Asthana was just one of the instances. So we must focus on this pattern, and to say, oh, both officers should go as if it is a personal fight between two officers. In fact, I would say, Nidhi, the contrary. That I would, I don't want to put Mr. Verma into more trouble by complimenting him, and thereby, people say, oh, see, he's the favorite of other people. I would compliment his staff, which is investigating persons like Asthana when they know full well that he has the backing of what is called in India the highest in the land. So it's very good. They must be investigated, and they investigated to the end.
Well, you talked about this yourself. The point is that these questions about Mr. Asthana's record were there even when he was appointed as Special Director, and the CVC chose to ignore that. But I just wanted your take, Mr. Shourie, on the Prime Minister's personal intervention in this. Now, there's some debate about that as well. Many argue that, this is an important agency that, reports to his government. It's good that, he had summoned the officers and met the CBI Director, etc. The Congress, however, argues that it was inappropriate. There are, serious charges against Mr. Asthana. The PM shouldn't be intervening. If he doesn't do it, we'll say he's, throwing up his hands and not doing anything. But now that he's done it, is it fair to criticize him for trying to resolve this?
No. Actually, in my view, Nidhi, what is happening in the CBI is yet another illustration of the Prime Minister having lost control of administration and of the government. But in this regard, there are two different points. We must first know what exactly he talked to these two officers. If he talked to Verma about the investigation into Asthana's case or the investigation into Rafale or anything, then he is certainly interfering in the course of investigation and therefore the course of justice, and that is a crime. I'm sure he would be careful enough not to do that. On the other hand, it is an agency of the government, and therefore when things are at loggerheads like this, it is certainly within his purview to ask, kaise theek ho sakta hai?
Right.
To find a remedial course.
But Mr.
But that's a separate matter. But if he has talked to either of them, about an investigation, then he is interfering in the course of justice.
Let's talk about now how you get involved in this. And you get involved in this because you and Mr. Yashwant Sinha and Prashant Bhushan had gone to meet the CBI Director with your complaint on the Rafale jet deal. And it is no secret that the government has been very unhappy about that. Reporters were told, it was widely reported in the media, that they felt that the CBI Director was out of line. He should have accepted the complaint at the CBI reception and not met you all personally. What is your sort of take on how that controversy has played out? Yes.
Nidhi, firstly, Mr. Yashwant Sinha was not in town, so he did not go that day. Second is that this is not the first time I have been to the Director's office. I went to the Director's office on two previous, in one case to his office, in one case to the house of a Director, after seeking official appointments, as we did in this particular case, because at that time I had useful information about an investigation, on two separate investigations that they were doing. And they were kind enough to thank me for bringing that information to their attention. That is our duty as citizens. Now, in the present case, we have worked very hard. Prashant and his team have worked extremely hard, and we have contributed a little bit on the Rafale deal. And we have gone to give it to them. Okay, the Director was kind enough to receive it. He listened to us patiently. He made some notes on a piece of paper. But people seem to forget that we also called upon the CVC, the Chief Vigilance Commissioner, Mr. Chaudhary, and he was equally courteous, he was equally patient, he listened to us at great length, and I don't want to, put him into any trouble, but actually there was one point which was troubling us, and he showed us the way out. So it's not the director they should be upset about.
Well, can you share?
And it was
can you share what advice the CVC gave you?
No, not at all. That's not at all. That's not necessary. It will come out in the next few days. It's a point of law. It was just that you were alluding to, on which these government fellows, fools, are taking shelter. They haven't read the law properly.
Have you been told what?
And you see, actually, far from the.
Sorry, have you been told what the CBI has done about your complaint? Have you been told what the CBI has done about your complaint?
No, actually, that's a very important point. You say that the director was, favored us by meeting us. We have a grievance against him and the CBI. You see, there is a case called Lalita Kumari versus the government of Uttar Pradesh, decided by a constitution bench of 5 judges in 2014. When a complaint is brought to the CBI and it deals with an offence, then it is mandatory under that judgment for the CBI to register an FIR. At the most, they can have an inquiry, not in the substance of whether that offence was committed or not, but whether the complaint relates to the commitment of an offence. And that they have to complete within 1 week and then register the FIR. Now, we filed this complaint with the director on the 4th of October. Today is the 24th. 3 weeks have gone by and the FIR has not been filed. That is our grounds against them. I'll tell you. You see, supposing Nidhi Razdan goes to the CBI and says, I saw Arun Shourie walking on the road. So, register an FIR. Now, walking on the road is not an offence. But supposing Nidhi Razdan went to the CBI and said, I saw Arun Shourie walking into a prohibited defence area where nobody is allowed to go. That is an offence. They have to register a FIR. And they are not to determine whether I was actually walking there or not. All they can do is whether Nidhi Razdan's complaint relates to my having committed an offence. Now, there can be no doubt that the voluminous complaint that we have filed with 40 odd annexures deals with the commitment of a series of offences under the Prevention of Corruption Act and other criminal acts dealing with crimes. So, no inquiry is required. No permission is required. So, why have you delayed it by 3 weeks?
So you're saying the CBI...
So that is our grouse.
Your grouse is that the CBI has not acted on your complaint, Mr. Shourie. There is, however, and I'm saying this very carefully, I'm saying this very, very carefully.
As far as we know.
A lot of political gossip or speculation right now that the CBI director has just a couple of months left before he retires. The government can't really remove him. It's a complicated process. It wouldn't look nice to do that either. He's pretty unhappy with the way things have unfolded, and he has your complaint. So if he wants, he can order at least a preliminary inquiry. That's not out of the realm of possibility, is it?
No, I don't know what to, we have not calculated on when he is retiring or what the next director will be and this, that and the other. As you know, we have been going into this issue and we have been excavating the facts for some months now. And we have held 3 press conferences, and now we took the next logical step of going to the CBI because now we had very important material. We placed it. The Wire has published that the entire text of our complaint. You can see that. It is a very well documented complaint. It's not just a frivolous thing.
But do you think that that's part of the reason?
Or not
do you think that's part of the reason the government is not happy with the CBI director, that you went to meet him with this complaint and that he met you?
No, but what should we do? They should be unhappy with us, but to the director.
Well, they're always unhappy with you.
Us, no, leave it at the reception.
It kind of fell out on the director. No?
No, but you see, the problem, Nidhi, is this is a non-issue whether somebody receives you, I am nobody. But let us say Mr. Yashwant Sinha, who just by accident could not be in Delhi that day because he had engagements out of town, he had been along with Prashant and me. Now, he is a very senior man, much more senior to these prime ministers and all these characters here. He has sat in on decisions of war and peace. Do you know that he is a person who is the only person whom Mr. Bajpayee had told about the forthcoming atomic tests? Because he was the finance minister and he had to prepare a plan of how to meet the sanctions which would be imposed from the next day. He is that kind of a person, and if the CBI director is courteous enough to receive him, would that be, oh, such an impropriety?
All right.
It's very silly. And to dub, so often you people say, I'm not a politician, then you say, Prashant Bhushan is a senior advocate, and you say, he's also a politician. Well, this is just, trying to manufacture issues and not dealing with the facts. The fact of the matter is that we filed a complaint which is a detailed complaint, and the CBI under that Lalita Kumari versus UP is
You're saying they're mandated
in duty bound
to file
to
that
register
FIR.
the FIR. It has not registered it thus far.
All right, Mr. Shourie, thank you very much for joining us.
Only after it registers an FIR, this is one point, it is only after it registers an FIR, Nidhi, that it acquires the powers for search, seizure, investigation and so on.
Well, it is worth following up with the CBI on what they've done based on what you've just said. Thank you, Mr. Shourie, for joining us on NDTV this evening.